Hello, we're on page 2 now, and we're going to factor. That's using that as a verb, a thing we're doing. We're factoring each polynomial by using the GCF of its terms, which means find the greatest common factor, the largest entity you can that divides evenly into all the terms, and then place that in front of a set of parentheses. So for 4 and 18, it would just be a 2. And there's an x there, but there's no x there, so the best we can do here is put 2 times some parentheses. And the trick now is put into the parentheses what you need so that when you remove the parentheses, you get back exactly what you started with. So 2 times 2x would make the 4x. And then plus a 9, 2 times 9 makes 18. So this is exactly equal to that. That's what factoring this means. Let's try the next one. For 20 and 55, we could factor out a 5. Can't do anything with the w because there's no w in that other term. Well, now what do we put here to make 20? A 4. And we need the w. See, that makes 20w. Then there's the plus sign and an 11. That would make 20w plus 55, exactly what we started with. We can factor out a 5. And this time there is an x in both terms, and the GCF will be the smaller power. So it's just an x to the first out there. So 5x times what to make 5x squared? That would be an x. And then plus 5 times 4 to make the 20. See, there's 5x squared, and there's 20x. 5x squared plus 20x, factored out. For 6 and 18, we can factor a 6, and for x squared and x, we can factor an x. And parentheses, what? 6x times x makes the 6x squared. It's minus in the middle, so we put a minus in our parentheses. And that does it. That'll make minus 18x. We don't want to put an x here because then we'd get minus 18x squared. No good. We want it to be exactly what we started with, minus 18x. For 25 and 10, we get a 5. And for x to the third and x to the second, we can take out an x to the second. And we need a 5 to make the 25 reappeared, and we need an x to make it come out x to the third. And then a plus sign and a 2. See, there's the 10x squared. Getting the hang of it? Okay, 14 and 35, 7. X here and x here, we go with the lower power, just plain old x. Y and y go with the lower power, y squared. And now for the putback. To get the 14, we need a 2. To get an x to the third, we need an x squared. See, multiplying those would make an x to the third. We want the y squared to stay y squared, so we don't use a y for this first term. We get a plus sign and a 5 to make the 35. And we don't want to use an x because we want it to be an x to the first after multiplying. We do need a y to make the y to the third reappear. And going down to the next row. Maybe you want to pause for a minute and try a few and come back and see if you got them right. Factor out a 2. Factor out an a. Can't factor out a b because there's no b in this term. We can't factor out an x to the first power. So 2ax times what to make 2abx? The only thing we want is the b. And we need a 9 to make the 18. We don't want to use an a. We do want to use an x to the third. See, that would be 2abx or 2axb, same thing, plus 18ax to the fourth. Perfect match. Okay. Not too bad, I hope. 30 and 40, I guess 10. By the way, as we finish each one of these, if we've made this as large as possible, what we put in the parentheses should have no common factors. See, there's nothing that goes into 5x and 2. There's nothing that goes into 2 and 5 and x squared and y, etc. If we did find something, like if we had a 5x and a 10 there, we'd have to say, oh, we got to start over again, factor out another 5. We didn't make the GCF large enough. But 10, and there's an m there, but no m there, so m doesn't get used. There's an x there, and there's an x there, so we can use x to the smaller power. I see the n, but there's no n in that first term, so it doesn't get included in the GCF. To make the 30, we use a 3. The x is taken care of. We need the m. And, of course, a minus sign. See, that'll make 30 x squared m, or 30m x squared. And then minus 4, and we need the n. And to pull this up to x to the 5th, we need an x to the 3rd. In case anybody's wondering, could I put the x cubed and then the n? Yeah, sure, because it's within this term, it's all multiplication. We always want the coefficient in front. It just makes it easier to read. But as far as the order of the variables, it doesn't really matter. If you want to be super organized, you put them in alphabetical order, but it's not necessary. 14 and 21, we get a 7. X squared and x, we get an x. Y to the 5th, no y, don't get a y. P squared, p to the 5th, we get the p to the 2nd power. We need a 2 to make the 14. We need an x to bring back an x squared. We need the y to the 5th. And what about p? We don't want to use a p because it's already got the right exponent. A minus sign and a 3. And the x already has the correct exponent, and the p is supposed to go up to p to the 5th, so we need a p to the 3rd. Okay. Bottom row. 3 terms now. Oh boy. And notice that there are no like terms. There's no adding or subtracting to do here. But I think 2 is as large as we can get for the common factor for the 3 numbers. And for the x's, we got to go with the smallest power. So we need a 5x squared plus 6x. See, that'll make 12x squared. And then minus 17. That'll make minus 34x. Okay. Let's see. Can we factor out? No, 9 does. How about a 3? In fact, we can factor out a 3, or we can factor out a negative 3. Either way, it will make a different looking answer, but it'll be equivalent. I'm going to factor out a negative 3. And for the x's, was x squared, x, we can factor out an x to the 1st. For the y's, there's a y to the 3rd, y to the 4th, we can factor out a simple y. Now be careful with the signs here. We want a negative 9, so we use a positive 3 in here. See, that'll make negative 9. And we want an x to make the x squared, and we want a y squared to make a y to the 3rd. Next term is supposed to come out plus 15, so we need a minus 5. That'll make the plus 15, right? And the x and y are already a done deal. And we want the next thing to be minus 39, so we use plus 13. That'll make minus 39. The x is okay, and the y, we need a y to the 3rd. And that concludes page 2.